Hey, we're back once again. Dr. Z, who do we have with us today?
Yeah, so we have Enrique Acosta Gonzalez. And Enrique is a business and leadership development coach and also a veteran.
Yeah.
So, Enrique, take it away. Tell our listeners something about your background and what's been going on with you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Professor P, Dr. Z, thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about me, my history, my background. Quickly, I am from Puerto Rico, raised in the Bronx. From the Caribbean to the concrete jungle,
Wow.
and then joined the Navy right out of high school.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
And it was an adventure that I was looking forward to. Had some Air Force ROTC, so Professor P, a little Air Force
Okay.
in there, um, some background, and I knew right from that program that I did want to go into service. Although my first try was Air Force, they wouldn't take me. So the
What?
Navy said, "Yeah, they wouldn't take me," but that's okay. 26 years later in the Navy, was blessed to be at the highest levels of enlisted force. I was one shy, so I retired as an E8,
Nice.
but had three, four commands that I was senior enlisted over. And
Wow.
that was just such a great experience.
Yeah. Thus leading you to your wheelhouse today, leadership,
Mhm.
right?
Right, right.
Tell us all about that. And I don't know if you want to go into, we talked a little bit off camera about how I was interested in hearing about how you made that transition from 26 years military, because
Yeah.
you get conditioned, correct? You get conditioned into this military way of life. And how was the adjustment? That's what I really want to know. And what do you have a caveat or two that you can share with people that to help them if they may be listening in, and a tip or an idea that might help them as they get ready to make their transition, because it clearly is a lot personally to deal with going from military back to civilian life.
Yeah, I think what's important to note is that transition is we are always transitioning,
Yeah.
right? And just think about the what it takes to go to the store, to the parking lot, you are always making transitions.
Right.
So what I try to is to demystify the taboo around that word, because we are always doing it. It's
Yeah.
nothing different.
Hmm.
What is different though, and it is critical for service members to realize, for whatever amount of time you were in service, the
Hmm.
world learned to live without you.
Hmm.
Mm.
And that's very sobering when you start to think about it.
Hmm.
So for 26 years, I was hid away in this other world.
Yeah.
Although the time is parallel, right? So it's almost like you have a divergence, and then you're on parallel streams of time.
Hmm.
But the world, they really got used to not having you around.
Hmm.
And so it's
Yeah.
difficult to try to come back, right? It's like you left as a baby and you came back at 18 and you're like, I'm a grown adult now. Give me what I need. Give me what I want. Give me what I deserve. And they're like, we didn't even know you existed.
Mm.
You're still alive?
You're alive. Yeah, yeah. We forgot about you.
Yeah.
And so the toughness of transition is that piece.
Mm.
How do you go from being forgotten about
Hmm.
to all of a sudden I'm ready for a job at the executive levels, and I'm ready to lead teams, and I'm ready. You have to get that adjustment right,
Yeah.
and you don't have to start from scratch like some people would tell you have to,
Hmm.
but you do have to realize that there's a reacquaintance that needs to happen, and the sooner you can get to that, the better you'll be.
Yeah. So dive into that a little bit. Give us an example. How did
Yeah.
your reacquaintance go? Are you talking career wise or personal and professional life? I would imagine
It's
both.
Yeah, it's both. It's both. So let's take, for instance, I came to Orlando. The last time I was in Orlando was 1989.
Mm-hmm.
You think I know? I don't know anybody in Orlando.
Wow.
I had my father-in-law, so thankfully I had him, but
Mm-hmm.
he didn't know anybody, right? so,
Yeah.
so it was like coming to a brand new canvas. Let's say
Okay.
you're so now you have to figure out how do you paint this thing, and
Yeah.
the beauty is that you get to do it,
Yeah.
right? You're not forced to do it; you get to do it, and
Mm.
so paint. Paint what you want. Paint it and do it. Put the
Mm.
colors down. But some people want a prepared canvas
Yeah.
with already, basically just color the numbers. It's not like that here.
Mm.
It's a blank canvas. You got
Yeah.
to make it. And so those that are curious enough, those that are daring enough, those that are courageous enough can really do a job on that transition,
Yeah.
and you'll never even realize that they were ever part of the force, because now they're in there and they got their dream job, and they're doing what they thought they could do. For
Mm.
those that are waiting for paint by colors, that's not available. It ain't.
That's interesting
Yeah.
because thinking about that from an entrepreneurial perspective, because if you're coming out of corporate America where you're basically told what to do, when to do, how to do,
Kind of similar. Yeah.
and then going into where you basically call the shots.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset shift. It's like your brain needs time to catch up to the reality of that situation. It makes me think about, Rami Albatrari wrote this book. He was one of our earliest podcast guests. He wrote this book about Can You Really Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah.
And he talked about how he sold everything, all of his businesses, to get a chance to work with one person, one man.
Wow.
And I thought about that. He actually created the chaos. He created the chaos that he needed to propel him into his ultimate dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that transition, he created that for himself.
Yeah, you people see chaos as a bad thing, and when you're in it, yeah, it looks bad. It's like, what's going on here? But only through the storm, and we're talking about storm here in Florida coming up, right? Only with the storm of chaos can you sift out what's not solid.
Mm.
Because everything that's not solid get carried with the wind.
Mm.
And so you're left with what's solid. And so chaos is not a bad thing if you go into it with the right mindset you mentioned. You have to understand that chaos comes so that you can sift out what's not permanent.
Mm. Mm.
Boy, this is getting deep now.
Yeah. We sometimes end up deep. Earlier, it made me think of an old cartoon. Help me, Mr. Wizard! Where a guy, his character would get into trouble and his wizard would magically pull him out of the storm.
Yeah.
So take us now. Leadership. You're in the wheelhouse. You got all this 26 years of experience being in the military. How has that served you? Give us an idea of what your world looks like today.
Yeah, the beauty of leadership, and especially now in today's force, is that there's a lot of civilian training that occurs in military settings. So, the Coveys, the Maxwells, all of the Cynics and all of that, they are now in contract with the government.
Nice.
And
all
so
the big guns.
you get a lot of civilian perspective leadership tools that help. Before, and you may know, Professor P, you got on those footprints right when you got out of the off the bus, and from then on out, it was yelling and screaming, and everything was
a whole new world.
whoa, hold on, I didn't sign up for this. So, but they bring that chaos, like I said, to get rid of the stuff that's not permanent, and then we can build from there. And they do that with a purpose. So when we bring in these civilian-based leadership gurus, we will say, they add to that. And so what they bring is the empathy that the military tells you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
They bring that in because they have realized that leadership is about people, not about resources. It's about that human and not a soldier, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
This Captain America version.
Right.
And so now they're appealing to more heart-centered, driven leadership perspectives and tools to help you lead that person, because you did 4 and you said, okay, that was good. I did 26. Okay, that was good. And then we became civilian. So we're always civilian. We're always civilian. It's just that we wear different uniforms.
Yeah.
And so what I like about that is that for me, it allowed me to start to treat people like people early on. And through those leadership models that were brought in, they reinforced that. And so the transition between my experience in leadership and the leadership today is not that far off.
mm,
Now, had you done that back in Vietnam, you'd have got 2 different leaders, right?
Yeah.
mm,
And
Yeah.
even still, right? Today we talk about transition. Even still today, there are some leaders that gravitate to the more authoritarian type
yeah.
of style.
Yeah.
They don't do well when they
Mm.
come out.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'm happy to say that the military has done a good job in introducing that civilian version enough for us as leaders today to be able to transition well when it comes to leadership.
Mm, okay. And then now, what levels of leadership do you work with? Do you work with people who
Mhm.
like are aspiring leaders, or do you work with people who are already in leadership positions but just desire to be that much better? Or do you even work with people who want to change their leadership style, maybe?
I would say all of the above. And I'd say that jokingly, but real. Um, in entrepreneurship, right? What's the first thing they tell you? Your product's not for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's not your customer, right?
Right.
You got to hone down who that person is so you can serve them right. In my case, my product is leadership development.
Okay.
It is for everybody that wants to grow. It is not for somebody that's okay where they're at.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So because I'm going to force that growth where
Mm,
I see, and when I deal with, like, say, a brand new leader that says, hey, I'm not in a position yet, but when I get there, I want to
Mm.
be ready. I
Yeah.
love that.
mm,
Absolutely love that. That is a true sign of leadership. Don't wait till you get in the position. Be ready so that when that position comes, you're about as round up as you can be,
Yeah.
mm,
and you'll do your people well.
yeah.
So we have that. And when I speak to folks, it's usually like threefold. One is one-on-one. Hey, Enrique, I'm having issues. I need to get this right. Help me clear my mind. Okay, good. Another one is, hey, Enrique, I see what you're doing. I would love to work with you for the next 3 months. I'm looking to transition into a higher position or paid position. And I know that's going to require something out of me that I probably don't have right now. So let's work. And so we'll get into a little contract, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, however it may be. And then the other is, hey, Enrique, I heard and I saw your video on time management. I absolutely, can you come and talk to my group? And so
Mm,
then we'll do some corporate setting type of training around a subject matter. So, through those mediums like that, I kind of catch all those little levels of leadership development, or those that want leadership development.
mm,
And so, yeah, and in a nutshell, yeah, it is kind of for everybody that wants to develop.
Yeah.
mm.
Sounds like the machine is humming along pretty well. Question is, how was it when you first started? What were the growing pains? We're stacking questions here, but
Look, I tell you, in entrepreneurship, be ready to be by yourself for a little bit. Because in my line of work, and I was speaking about this earlier today, in my line of work, there is a lot of credibility that needs to be had in order for someone to even consider you a viable option for their development needs.
Yeah.
They're going to look you up and they're going to see what kind of pedigree you got. Right? And they're going to look for certifications. They're going to look for who you've been involved with. They're going to, and if I was looking for development, I'd be doing the same thing. Due diligence, especially for those listening, if you want to develop, do your due diligence on who you're going to turn over your life to, because it's very important. And so at first, like I said, they learned to live without me. I had to build some type of reputation. I had to build some type of visible resume, not just on the paper, something that they could say, hey, let me listen to this guy talk about crisis management. Let me listen to what he has to say about mind shifts. So that's why I went to podcasting.
Okay.
Because that's where you actually get to hear me speak about this, that, and the other that relates to leadership development.
Yeah.
Outside of that, you'll just have a website and you can't get much from there.
Yeah.
So it was lonely at first. And I was, praising my own self, like, oh, that was a good one, brother. You should keep going.
So early on, then, what did you do to get clients?
Yeah.
What were some of the one or two things that you can help other coaches who are just starting out as leadership developers, coaches?
Yeah. Well, you have to settle on the fact that if you are not courageous, you won't get a client.
Yeah, exactly.
You won't. They're not out there waiting for you to open your doors. No. You got to be courageous. So you got to do some things that require courage. Podcasting was one of those things for me. Now you're on a video. Now they get to play back what you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh, but you said this. Oh, did I? Ooh. So it takes a lot of courage to do that and get out there and just put it out there so that people can see and get a taste of, right? This is where the people get a taste of what you can do.
Yeah.
Putting on webinars when it was free.
Yeah.
You got to be smart. It just can't be free and that's it. It got to be free, and I'm going to show you the door of the paid option, right?
The value ladder.
You gotta get your marketing right. You gotta get your wording right. Who are you targeting? That's another thing.
Right.
At first, you think, like we said, oh, everybody's not your customer, and that is a fact.
Right.
Who is it? What do they look like? Have you actually personified that person?
Yeah.
Do you even know what they look like?
Yeah.
What they like, what they don't like. You got to have that. And so if I was to start all over again, that definitely would have been on top of my list. Who is it that I want to talk to?
Yeah.
And who is it that I don't want to talk
to?
Yeah, because you do have a very defined niche. I mean, I imagine that evolved over time.
Right.
So how did you find your sweet spot, basically?
Yeah, good question.
I got help. That's another thing. Hey, you could be CEO of whatever you want. Go ahead. Have at it. If you think you could do this by yourself, you're sadly mistaken. And you'll learn quickly when the bank is chirping because it needs some funds. I started to network with people that I knew I would potentially have to work with later on.
Okay.
And so, yeah, maybe at first there was no sign of a collaboration or anything like that. but sooner or later, you're going to need somebody. And it's best if you build a relationship with somebody that you can trust and then later on maybe hire them than trying to find somebody you need to hire tomorrow,
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And because then you're just gonna be picking from a position of haste, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I built relationship with people that I thought were doing a good job. I had a list of things that I knew I potentially would have a need for later on. And through those relationships and learning who they were and what they provided and how they did it is how I started to ease them into my my basically my workforce, right?
Okay.
And so you got to be strategic about that, but you have to also do your due diligence about that person. And the best way of doing that is over time in a relationship.
Yeah. Building your team. Definitely got to think in terms of building a team. Who do I need on that team?
Yep.
The big catchphrase these days, which has really caught fire, is it takes a village. But it truly does. It takes a small village of people to get on your team, however you want to, frame it up. Takes all of that. So with that said, who would you say was the most influential to help you really like springboard you to really start to scale up?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give credit to my advisory board, right? My board of advisors were handpicked. They were handpicked, but because of the reasons that I told you, these were experts that not only served at the highest levels of the military, but also had the business acumen and were successful at business. They either led the highest levels of schools in leadership, ethics, morality, all those, or they actually have $1 million companies. And so I surrounded myself. My first team was my board of advisors. That was my first team.
Nice.
and it was important because in my line of work, we have mentioned credibility. That's important. Well, this group of individuals brought that from day one. And so if somebody's like, "Oh, let's see what Enrique is about," I don't know about that, this, that, and the other. Let's see who he's getting advised by.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a done deal.
Nice.
When they look at that, when they look at those five gentlemen, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, okay." So if he's getting advice from them, it should be good, and it is. These they don't play.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. So real quick, ask yourselves, people out there listening, who do I need to have on my dream team?
Dream team. Yeah, I remember
Right?
that dream team.
Yeah.
How has COVID, and the pandemic, like we're still coming out of that.
Yeah.
How has that affected leadership? Because obviously supply chain, that was a chaos that nobody could anticipate coming.
Good question. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, COVID's not left anywhere.
No.
You may not hear about it, but if you have your ears to the news, they're talking about another pandemic.
Yeah.
Some cities and states are remandating masks. Just because you don't hear about it, this thing ain't go nowhere, right? And it affected me personally in terms of loss.
Yeah.
But it also provided an opportunity. And let me tell you about this.
Okay.
When we were so busy running and flying and going and visiting, and we didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I do everything right here in my house. Everything that I used to do, I still do here. Right. This morning I had a session. I'm doing a podcast now. Tomorrow I have another thing. I'm still as busy as I was, except that I get to stay at home a whole lot more. And but that crisis has not gone away. It's just not talked about anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so what it did for me was that it helped me streamline what I provided.
Mm.
And that was the blessing behind it. Now I don't have to leave my family for 2 weeks because I got to travel to Hawaii or Japan or, you know,
Yeah.
I could do it all here. All I have to do is adjust when I speak, right, in
Mm.
front of my studio,
Mhm.
what time, and I can handle that, and that's much easier. But it did provide a lot of opportunity to think outside of the box and realize that there was a lot of hustle and bustle in my line of work that was not necessary.
Mm.
Mm. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm wondering so I tell this story quite frequently in real estate. I flipped houses for a few years,
Mm.
and I will never forget walking. So I went on this bus tour, and it was an all-day event. You did have the morning was classroom, running numbers. The afternoon was the fun part. You hop on the bus and you go to all these different houses, and you see one that's like horrible right there. It's like a hoarder house or this or that, and so you run the numbers, and you end up at a finished house. You're like, wow, this is what it should look like when I'm done. I remember walking to my car and going, you know what? I can do this. So
Mm.
where I'm leading you to here is, what was that moment when you're like, wow, I truly believe that I got this leadership coaching thing? Tell us a little bit about how that evolved.
Well, that started in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole and if you look at my logo, right, you see the trident, which is significant of sea, right?
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
My in the military we have what we call a cookie, and most of us have a variation of that. In the Air
Mm,
Force, it may be round. In the Navy and the Coast Guard, it's like an oval cookie, and it usually says senior command, senior enlisted, or command master chief, command senior chief. So
mm,
this is kind of like representative of my service and my last years of service.
mm,
But it was at it was in the military where I realized that I could do this because I was doing it,
Mm.
mm,
except they weren't paying me for it.
yeah.
But but what I loved about that was that the military provided me an opportunity to see my potential
Okay.
Mm. Okay.
because, like I told you, they integrated and brought in some civilian concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was using those same civilian concepts on sailors
Mm-hmm.
and seeing results.
Wow.
Mm.
I tell you, my last duty station, they sent me to a command that had 50 people total, right?
Mm-hmm.
The military complement was very, very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
They were basically a command hit away. Right? Nobody bothers anybody in Hawaii,
Okay.
right? Never did not have awards, did not have recognition, did not have this, then any other.
Mm-hmm.
In the 3 years I was there, and no, this is not an account completely to me because it takes two to tango, right? I can
Mm-hmm.
bring in whatever concept I want. If somebody don't want to do it, they just don't do it.
Yep.
But we had a great relationship. I brought it, they received it and did it.
Mm.
And so within 3 years, that command went from non-existent to the best in the claimancy.
Mm.
Wow.
They won an award for having 100% qualification.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
They won an award individually. One of my sailors won the best sailor in the entire community.
Wow.
Wow.
One of the chiefs, the Navy had done away with the warrant officer program.
Yeah.
They brought it back that year. One of my chiefs got selected for that.
Wow.
I mean, it was like boom, 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 boom,
Nice.
and it was through taking those concepts,
Mm-hmm.
giving it to them in a military setting, and watching them flourish.
Mm.
Mm.
And when I saw that, I said, if I could do it here
Yeah.
with a command that most people forgot about,
Mm-hmm.
I could do it out there.
Nice.
What is it that makes you successful? Like if you, I don't know, can you pin it down to one thing? Is it you or is it the person or is it
Mhm.
just the timing of the two?
Yeah, there are a lot. There are a lot of things, a lot of factors.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I would have to say the most important factor is that I know my purpose.
Mm.
Okay.
So whether it's today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, I know exactly what my purpose is.
Mm.
And the person that knows their purpose, it doesn't matter what environment they're in, they're going to fulfill it.
Mm.
So you knowing your purpose, but then they have to know their purpose
You
too.
have to get them to understand that there is a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not too many people like to, we like, don't change me.
Right.
Mm.
I'm not asking you to change me. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You're going to be somebody else tomorrow
Mm.
because already we're having a conversation about change. And I'm going to throw something at you. And when you get home, you're going to be thinking about that something. So
Mm.
Yeah.
it's inevitable. But as a person that understands their purpose, helping somebody else be clear on theirs is what causes the action. And
Mm.
once the action takes place, the entire purpose is fulfilled. And
Nice.
so it's that. For those that don't know, they'll know. Spend 5 minutes with me,
Yeah.
and we'll get you there.
Yeah. So that said, what is your purpose?
Yeah, my purpose is to enable folks to understand that they were created on purpose.
Mm.
Mm.
A
Okay.
lot of people feel like, oh, I don't even know why I'm here.
Mm.
Well, that's where I come in.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out. And by the time we're done, you're not the only one that's going to be changed.
Yeah.
And did you do that in the military also with the new recruits? You know, they're just out of high school. You know, some of them definitely don't know what. I don't want to say definitely don't, but for the majority, I think they don't know what their purpose
Yeah.
is, or they just.
So it's funny that you bring that up because I left that group out of my, hey, they did this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And at our command, we had the greatest proportion of young sailors that went from 0 to E5 in 2 years.
Wow.
Oh.
Those sailors were no joke. But you have to give yourself credit, right? As a person that's creating an environment,
Mm.
Mm.
you have to give yourself credit. I created that environment.
Mm.
No one at that command was less than. It didn't matter what rank they had.
Mm.
And when you tell people that, especially young people, that they actually have a say
Mm.
and then they're explained to as to why things are happening, they get just as involved as a person that's, working on this for a lifetime.
Mm.
And what you see is they start taking ownership over their purpose.
Mm.
And so the young people, all they want to know is that, hey, can I contribute? Can I bring this? I know
Yeah.
what I got. And to not have an old person tell them, no, that's not how we do it.
Yeah.
So I created an environment where people could thrive, bringing in what they had at the time in order for them to understand what they have for the long time.
Yeah. It's like the coach that has a team full of players, pick your sport, and the coach looks at the best coaches. They look at the player, what are their strengths?
Mm-hmm.
And then especially in football, they design the game plan to make best use of their talents. So they put them in the right position. They figure out what their strengths are and let them run. And it sounds like that's what you did, created an incredible culture.
Yeah, I'm happy I was blessed to be there at that time.
Mm.
Being in Hawaii, I was happy anyway. So
Yeah.
It didn't take too much to make me happy. I was already happy. um, but yeah, the environment is key. And as like parents, right? We get out of our children what we allow our that environment to bring out of them.
Yeah.
And we have to be caretakers of that environment. And a lot of times we forget that by our own, things going on in our life, that we're still responsible for the environment.
Mm.
And so, if you want to shelter them, if you want to expose them, that's all your call. But the environment is what brings out the best in your kids. And so I brought that into the command. And any one of them will tell you, if an E7 was wrong, I tell them they were wrong right there in front of everybody. It didn't
Mm.
matter to me because it wasn't for embarrassment.
Mm.
It was so that everyone knew that when you're wrong, you own it.
Mm.
And that's okay.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not going to beat you down about it, but own it and change it. And everybody understood that no one was bigger than anybody.
Mm.
And it worked.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow, that's impressive,
Yeah. So what now? What are your plans with the business? And you're doing podcasting, and I'm seeing you out there everywhere, especially on LinkedIn. That's a great place to be. What's the
Yeah.
future hold for the business and your dreams and aspirations?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned LinkedIn because when you're in business, you got to pick your platform, right?
Yeah.
You can't be an octopus. People try.
Yeah.
My clientele reside in the platform LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Now there's other people, and sure I share that on Facebook. I share the post on other platforms
Mm.
just so that other people can get a taste of it. But decide what playground you want to be in.
Mm.
It's very critical. Decide the playground. But what's next? Well, I love podcasting. I
Mm.
love interviewing. So I just started actually Thursday. Last
Mm.
Thursday I had one. This Thursday I'll have one, which is a podcast for beginners. It's a
Mm.
webinar based 1 hour event.
Mm.
Although it's part of my business model, so it is a paid event.
Mm.
Um, but that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You can look at the things that you're doing, right?
Mm.
And how do you incorporate that into your business model where it makes sense? I'm going to be
Mm.
talking about podcasting, but I'm always talking about leadership because when you're a podcaster, you're the leader. You're
Yeah.
basically the CEO of that podcast. And
Mm.
so I'm always giving out leadership tips and advice to help you generally. But in this case, we're going to be talking about specifically podcasting and the things that are required for that. So
Mm.
that's one arm of it. I still continue to do my webinars and my personal coaching, which are another extension of the business model. And
Mm.
so I'm trying to diversify the offering of the business in the realms of the things that I love to do.
Yeah.
And so you'll see a lot of posts here recently that are geared towards the business, right? The growth and revenue generating part of the business.
Yeah.
Although I still continue to do, tips here, tips there, a video here, a post there. I'm concentrating on the revenue side this year so that we can continue to provide the type of service that we're doing.
Yeah.
If you're not in bringing in money, that service is going to stop sooner or later.
Right.
For sure. And you don't just focus, or do you still reach out to the military? Do they reach out to you? Is that still a big portion of what you do, or are you moving more into the private sector?
Yeah, so I mentioned I had 3 podcasts, all
Oh,
three. So I have Developing the Leader Within, which is my worldwide centered leadership development platform.
Mm.
okay.
That's to reach out to the world. And I have various guests from around the world
Mm.
Okay.
that come in and speak. My second podcast is military centric, military community centric.
Mm-hmm.
That podcast is highlighting CEOs, business owners that are veterans, things like that. So I'm still involved heavily in the veteran community and the military community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My third one is Aloha Friday Live. Obviously, I just mentioned how happy I was in Hawaii. So I spent 13 years on Oahu,
Wow.
and basically I grew up there as a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a Friday afternoon where I take that opportunity in a very relaxed and aloha type of chill way, bring other leaders that may not be in the veteran, military, or worldwide space, right? More
Mm-hmm.
local, regional, U.S. based leadership.
Okay.
But all three of them are around leadership. And so you're always going to get something of some sort of education and growth opportunity through those mediums. And and it's just a joy to be able to bring the best part of leaders to the listener.
Nice. Well, I think that brings us full circle. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any parting gifts, Don Pardo?
Yeah. And maybe for those young guys out there who are just basically struggling to find themselves. I mean, I know Patrick said the military helped him, but for the young ones that are out there that maybe they don't really want to do military, but they have a purpose, but they're really struggling to find it right now.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we normally do around those that are wanting to, like I said in the beginning, right? If you want to develop, hey, then we can talk. So there's a program specifically for young leaders that are wanting to find their purpose and all that. I'll make sure to have that link for the show so that you can share that.
Okay.
But they can go to that. It is a discounted because they're young leaders for them, and I'll be happy to provide you with that link. For any of the other leaders that are wanting to develop, I tell you the first thing out of all the things that I can mention is awareness. If you understand that where you are, you're not happy at, and where you are, people that follow you are not happy. That's a huge awareness piece.
Right.
If you know that, then the grown adult version of you should say, I either need to step aside from leadership or I need to get up and be sharper, right?
Yeah.
Develop.
Yeah.
I need to develop. And if that's you and you are at that level of awareness, then by all means reach out. We can work on what that looks like for you in terms of the monetary investment, because like I tell everybody should be invested in their development. Some of it is free, some of it is not. And so you have to be ready for that monetary investment. But you can reach out to me, Triad Leadership Solutions at gmail.com. Or you could just go to triadleadershipsolutions.com and you can look at the different array of services that we provide and go from there.
Plus LinkedIn, right?
Definitely LinkedIn. If you see me anywhere, it's going to be on LinkedIn.
So just reach out, connect to Enrique Acosta Gonzalez.
Yep. All three. Because there's a ton of Enrique Acosta. Enrique Acosta.
Yeah, I'm the only Acosta Gonzalez. Yeah.
A quick message. Enrique, I need your leadership superpowers. All right. I think we're going to leave it there, Enrique. And as always, thank you in advance.
Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing